I saw it was written the Hindi adaptation of The Fault in Our Stars. And I looked at him and I was like, is this some kind of joke? Like, are you pulling some really horrible joke? And having been a friend to Sushant, but also the kizzy to his Manny, I know that there was this immense zest for life that was common to both of them. Ranbir and Imtiaz would always keep telling me, but I wouldn't understand what they meant, because I think they were able to see it better because they, of course, older and wiser. But for 6-7 years, I was just like, you guys are, I don't know what you're saying, and like, I'm going to study and I'm going to do my own thing. And now they're all like, Dekha, we told you, type of thing. I'm half Punjabi, mom is Gujarati, but I had to play a Bengali. And Mukesh very nonchalantly put this sort of demand that so on first day of set, you have to be speaking in fluent Bengali, just straight up. So I was like, what does that mean? I always see reality in a very romanticized way. So I put those words down into some lines, which I realized sounded far more grave than I meant for them to sound. I meant maybe back soon or not, because there's the pandemic. I'm a free artist. I'm here to just tell stories. I don't have any pressure to live up to a name. Maybe I don't know what that pressure feels like. It's the grandest and only tribute we can give to the absolute legend that Sushant was.
Alright, so I have with me someone today who's making her debut in the films, even though she has acted in a lot of films before, but this is going to be her debut as a leading lady. I have with me Sanjana Sanghi, who is coming up with a very special film, Dil Bechara. Welcome, Sanjana. How are you doing?
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much. I'm okay. I'm doing all right. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, I want to start off by knowing specifically about Dil Bechara. What was it about Dil Bechara that drew you to the film and you decided that this is the film that you want to make your debut with?
So, you know, it's a couple of things, and also it's a very organic sort of development that happened. Because I've, like you said, been acting since I was really little. I was only 13 during Rockstar. What I realized was that I'm really passionate about performing. So there's never been I've never like carried this whole particular dream of a debut launch or anything like that. Also a very studious kid. So went to Lady Shriram and went to Delhi University for college. When I remember I had just graduated college and Mukesh sir called me saying that come to Bombay and we need to audition for something. So I used to audition all the time. So I thought it's just one of those. And for the first time, I was made to sit in his office and given a full script, which was not something that I was used to, because usually you're given a couple of audition scenes and that's all. Yeah. And then on that, I saw it was written the Hindi adaptation of The Fault in Our Stars. And I looked at him and I was like, is this some kind of joke? Like, are you pulling some really horrible joke? He's like, no, it's real. Just read it, take 3-4 hours and we'll talk. And I just took a corner in his office, read the script start to finish in one go, cried bucket full of tears, of course, because there's no other way to absorb this story. And I couldn't believe it, because I'm that 16-year-old who skipped school to go and watch the film, you know. So I am a fanatic of the novel and the film. So it's surreal. That bit is surreal for sure.
I also want to ask you, do you remember your first day on the sets of Dil Bechara? How was that? Like, were you nervous, and how was everything?
Oh my God. I remember the first day on set, like it's in my veins. I can almost feel it physically, because, you know, I had put in 7-8 months or 9 months of prep into the film, because when you're debuting, you have the luxury also to do that. And so that first day of set, you've been building up to it for months. So either it's like a complete damn squib, or it's an actual good release of your nervous energy. For me, it was somewhere in the middle. I wasn't nervous about being on set. What will it be like in front of the camera? What is it like to be on a crew? Because luckily, more than familiar with that. But for me, Kizzy is the most special person in my life. Like, Kizzy for me is another human being that almost now I interact with her, I learn from her. So I wanted to bring her out in the most earnest and nuanced way, because Supratim and Shashank have written her like that.
Yeah.
So and also the illness, right? She's a girl who's grown up with an illness, but I didn't want that illness to define her at any point. I didn't want you as an audience to be like, oh, that's Kizzy, she's unwell, and she's a girl who has a big heart and spunk. First, see her for who she is. Hopefully that pipe becomes invisible.
Yeah.
That was the goal, you know.
That is so beautifully said. When you started off in Rockstar, that was around 10 years ago from now, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And 10 years later, you're making your debut as a leading lady. And आपने और भी कई फिल्में की, you've been in a couple of advertisements also. Talk to me about this entire journey. How has it been? And what have you learned? How has the entire experience been for you?
I mean, this journey has been my entire life. Like 13 to 23 is when that's your most important phase of your life. What Rockstar told me and made, like, it put a permanent stamp was that there's a special relationship with the camera. There's an extreme comfort somehow, because when you're that young and you can not get intimidated by either the camera or Ranbir Kapoor or any of that, you know that there's something special there. And Ranbir and Imtiaz would always keep telling me, but I wouldn't understand what they meant, because I think they were able to see it better because they're of course older and wiser. But for 6-7 years, I was just like, you guys I don't know what you're saying, and like, I'm going to study and I'm going to do my own thing. And now they're all like, Dekha, we told you type of thing. But what I did do was never let go for any opportunity that came my way. And that meant having a slightly weird childhood, because being both studious and passionate about, so working semi-professionally while growing up is not easy, you know. I was traveling to different countries. I was seeing and learning a lot more at a very young age. Yeah. And I couldn't relate, my peers couldn't relate to me in that way. I was in a way moving along a little, I was learning a lot more faster. And so school became a little tough because of those reasons. Because I was also committed to studying. So I faced like a little bit of, it was tough after Rockstar in that sense. But no regrets looking back, for sure.
Yeah, I agree. And, while you're also talking about the role that you're playing in Dil Bechara, it's a very demanding role emotionally also. And it's a very challenging part also. How difficult was it for you to, play this role, to prep for it? How was that like?
That's the thing, that it took me a lot of months of very hardcore training and workshops. I trained under Panditji, who's N.K. Sharma at the National School of Drama, under Mukesh. I'm a North Indian. I'm half Punjabi, mom is Gujarati, but I had to play a Bengali. And Mukesh very nonchalantly put this sort of demand that so on the first day of set, you have to be speaking in fluent Bengali, just straight up. So I was like, what does that mean? And he's like, yeah, I mean that you have to be speaking the swastika and shashatoda in Bengali. So that meant 7-8 months of mazduri wala kaam, literally. So I had a diction coach again from National School of Drama. We would, for 8 hours, watch we would watch Bengali films. I would learn the language. It was really hard, but I'm so grateful that we did that, because I could understand the nuances. I could improvise with swastika and shashatoda, because they're such legendary veteran sort of Bengali actors that you have to be at their level to be able to play with them, to be able to knock with them, you know. On the one hand, there's a Sushant Singh Rajput who's so good at his craft, and then there's these guys. So, and the story is through Kizzy's perspective. So I really had to shoulder a lot of the performance burden, and that took work. That took solid amount of work, yeah.
Now, since you've worked with Sushant and you know very closely the kind of person that he was, you're also aware of his character in the film. is there any common trait that you see in Sushant and the character that he's played in Dil Bechara?
And having been a friend to Sushant, but also the kizzy to his Manny, I know that there was this immense zest for life that was common to both of them. Both are so passionate and so raw and so vulnerable also. And that's the most endearing part about both Sushant and Manny, you know. I used to always tell Sushant that like the Manny is like, you fixed if all the weaknesses in Sushant were fixed and wrapped up into this one perfect bundle, like Emmanuel Rajkumar is the boyfriend all of us want. You know, he's that guy. So that was always a joke between us.
And talk to me about your equation with Sushant also, because you're both very studious and like very smart and everything. So how was it like for you both on the sets, like, between takes, and how was it like, the lunch dinner scenes and everything? How was that like?
It was the chats about Yuval's books, or it was a samosa competition, or it was taking chai up to the terrace on our break day and just sitting back, getting drenched in the rain, sipping some tea, singing Tare Gin. You know, it's just endless stuff that we used to do.
I also want to know, I have to ask you this, like one of your Insta stories sometime back when you when you wrote about how you're leaving Mumbai, and even though you clarified after that, but a lot of people all of a sudden were like, oh my god, Sanjana is already quitting Bollywood. And what was going inside your head at that point of time when you posted that story? And I'm sure you must have got so many messages, calls and whatnot. Talk to me about that.
I mean, you've seen already that like clearly there's no filter here, and clearly I wear my heart on my sleeve. So it was just one of those things, yeah. Like, I'm from Delhi. I've spent all of lockdown here since beginning March almost, and I flew to Bombay just for a day. And it was the first time I was seeing Bombay after the pandemic, and it was the most silence and the most calm I've ever seen in that city.
Yeah.
And I'm a poetic person. I'm a student of journalism. And I'm an artist. So my mind, I always see reality in a very romanticized way. So I put those words down into some lines, which I realized sounded far more grave than I meant for them to sound. I meant maybe back soon or not, because there's the pandemic, and my producers, none of the scripts that I'm listening to, we don't know when we can go on floors, how soon, or if how safely. So which means that I'll be back, or maybe not soon is what I meant. But I guess people don't sort of construe your message the way you want them to always.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to stop expressing what I feel. I'm happier to clarify, because like I can sense the love from the youth of our country, and I'm one of them. I am just as much them as anyone else, and I want them to see a person who says what's on her mind. I don't want them to see someone who's curated and filtered, you know.
Well, the film, like you've said, it's the official remake of The Fault in Our Stars. And when that film released, it just, it was so well received. Everybody loved it so much. And I'm sure you also liked it a lot. And ever since Dil Bechara was announced, people had a lot of expectations from this film.
Yeah, as did I.
Talk to me about that. Was there any pressure also that you felt, while filming or whatever?
I took on pressure because, like I told you, like when you're a fanatic of a story, like for me, The Fault in Our Stars is a modern classic. It's almost as special as a Harry Potter. And when you sort of put something up on that pedestal, I was like, guys, how are we going to do this? Then Mukesh, Sushant, Shashank Khaitan, everybody had to sit me down and be like, listen, we have picked up the soul of that story and placed it in a new cultural context. You are the Indian Hazel Grace. She will not be the same. She will be different. She's Bengali. She grew up in Jamshedpur. So she's going to have a different soul to her. And then when I read the script, all my doubts actually went out of the window, because now I understand why Ranveer or any of the actors that I've always turned to for advice would talk about the written word so much. Because it really all ends up being in the writing, because really once that's there, then you're taken care of, then you know that you're onto a good start, you know.
Well, now since you've spent almost 10 years now in the industry, what is one thing that you love about Hindi cinema, and something you feel perhaps could be different? You have anything like that in mind?
So what I love is the relationship we have with our films. I think we Indians, cricket and cinema is a relationship where we establish ownership. Like every Indian thinks कि वो तो मैं बना नहीं रहा film, पर of course मैं बना सकता हूँ, you know. So almost every girl thinks that she could have been a heroine, but she chose not to. So that we have such a almost humorously passionate relationship with it, which I love. And the one thing I don't like,
or something that could be different than what it is right now.
I think so. This is what I know I'm going to do in the community that I build around myself. In whether it's 5 lakh people that choose to get with me on my journey, or 10 lakh, or whatever it is, I'm going to make it one of true art, where art is the most important thing. So the films I create or the stories I tell are of paramount importance, and I want them to engage with that art in many ways, like they are with Dil Bechara. The trailer didn't just drop and people didn't just forget about it. 10 days after, I got text saying, listen, that dialogue, that scene, what were you thinking? And that's engaging with art, and that's why art exists. You know, we say art saves lives, it's for a reason. Like Rahman sir's music, Khul Ke Jeene Ka, is people are calling it a courage anthem. They're saying that it breathed life into this really eerie world that the pandemic has created. So I'm gonna create hopefully this small bubble of honestness, like earnest work and honesty, hopefully.
Okay, I also want to know from you, how difficult was it for you to get roles, to get projects, to back projects, especially for somebody who's made her own mark and who's done everything on her own without being related to anybody in Bollywood, you know. How difficult was it for you? And do you think that it could have been different perhaps if you were related to, you know, a Bollywood family, or like an insider, as they say?
I never planned to get rockstar. I never thought that a Mukesh Chhabra will go around schools in Delhi looking for Mandy. I was just learning dance and performing because that was my world. And then my talent met with someone who believes in finding talent. And then I found Mukesh and he gave me rockstar. And that put me onto this journey, which has been tough. I've given hundreds of auditions, gotten hardly any, but still continued to give them. But so was graduating school tough, and so was graduating everything is tough. And I don't want it to come easy, because like if I sat here with Dil Bechara just landing on my lap out of nowhere, and I have no idea what it's like to be on set, how I'm to perform, I consider all the hundreds of advertisement sets that I've been on, the smallest parts I've done in Hindi medium, all added up to me being able to do Dil Bechara, to be honest. I would have been way out of my league otherwise, with these brilliant actors, not knowing where to start. So honestly, I don't look at it as a struggle. I genuinely think that these are what make us. These experiences are what make us as the people that we are. And I'm sure some people get it easier than I did, but I'm sure they have some troubles or some struggles of their own that I don't understand. You know, I'm a free artist. I'm here to just tell stories. I don't have any pressure to live up to a name. Maybe I don't know what that pressure feels like.
Lastly, why would you want people to watch Dil Bechara? If you had to talk to the audience and tell them that, you know, this is the reason why I think that you should watch Dil Bechara, what would that be?
So I have two answers to this. One is my very non-modest answer, which is that I just genuinely believe it's one of the best films we've made in a very long time. And I'll say that with utmost humility, but like it's a special one, and I know that. But the most important is because it's the grandest and only tribute we can give to the absolute legend that Sushant was. like I can feel that he is looking down and blessing us. And if we can convert all the hurt, all the grief that we're feeling right now into love and into celebrating him and his work, I think that'll be the biggest gift. So that's what I really want from the people.
Wow, that's so beautifully put. Thank you so much, Sanjana. It was a pleasure chatting with you. The film really
Thank you.
looks amazing. The trailer looks amazing. The songs are doing phenomenal. And I'm really looking forward to the film. Thank you so much for connecting and all the very best.
I'm glad you feel that. Thank you.